Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Pay homage to the Blessed One, the Supremely Enlightened Buddha. I pay homage to my teacher, Luk Swami Maharaj. Sadhu. Ayan?
Yes, Bhante. I have a question. I have been listening to some wonderful talks by Ajahn Chah, a book called Food for the Heart.
Mm-hmm.
And in one of these talks, he is speaking to his monks, and he touches on a point that has been a sort of thorn in my side, if you will, for a while now. He says, no matter how hard you try to free yourself, until you see the value of freedom and the pain of bondage, you won't be able to let go. You usually practice blindly, enduring the hardships, keeping the discipline, just following the form. You don't practice in order to attain freedom or liberation. You must see the value of letting go of your desires before you can really practice. Only then is true practice possible. And so I think I know the answer to this question, but I want to bounce it off you anyway. How does one see the value of letting go of one's desires in order to be able to truly practice, to truly commit oneself to one's practice?
Okay, so those benefits in Pali called Anisansa. Anisansa means benefits of letting go, benefits of detachment, benefits of renunciation. They are like repeatedly have been explained by the Buddha throughout the entire Sutta Pitaka. You see again and again the benefits of practicing liberation, practicing this path. So throughout these, the classes, Sutta classes and Dhamma talks, you hear again and again about the benefits of practicing this path. And that is the meaning of value of liberation, value of this path. Like when we think about, if we think about 5 precepts, keeping the 5 precepts, yes, it is true that it is very important to understand the value and benefits of keeping precepts, because that gives you so much effort to follow them. If you don't understand the value of keeping 5 precepts, if you don't see the benefits clearly as shown by the Buddha, then you don't make that strong effort to follow them. And also, so there are 5 benefits of keeping 5 precepts. And if you know them very well, clearly, if you understand them, of course, that gives you so much happiness and energy to continue keeping 5 precepts. Another example, if you know the value of doing loving kindness meditation, let's say you practice loving kindness meditation without knowing the benefits of it, and another person practices loving kindness meditation with the understanding of the benefits of it, there will be a big difference. When challenges come to your mind, to your meditation, you will easily give up your meditation the person who practices loving kindness meditation with the good understanding of the benefits of loving kindness meditation, even that person is faced with lots of difficulties, hardships, the knowledge about the benefits of loving kindness meditation would still pushes that person to continue with the practice. So what are the benefits of keeping 5 precepts? We have to learn. What are the benefits of loving kindness meditation? There are 11 benefits, not only 1, not only 2, not only 3, 5. There are 11 benefits. When you want to give up loving kindness meditation, but if your mind says no, reflect on the benefits. There are 11 benefits of loving kindness meditation. 10 of those 11 benefits are to be experienced in this very life. Only 1 benefit is for the next life, future life, the last one. All the first 10 benefits of loving kindness meditation are for this life, right? And that knowing of the benefits, the value of the loving kindness meditation will definitely encourage you to follow the path, to follow the meditation, to practice the wholesome qualities. Yes, so definitely knowing, understanding the value of not only precepts, not only meditation, understanding the benefits and value of all the wholesome qualities. So precepts is only one wholesome quality. Loving kindness meditation is only one wholesome quality. So this entire Noble Eightfold Path is full of so many wholesome qualities. So we talked about right speech, right view, wisdom. We talked about those things few minutes ago. So if we understand the benefits and value of all these wholesome qualities, that is very, very important.
So I guess my question is, how do we come to a point? How does a worldling like myself who wants to make progress along the path come to a point of actually understanding, of actually getting a little taste of the experience of the value of letting go of desire? Because I continually allow myself to be pulled back in by desire for all different things.
For the value of letting go, I think I have selected the right sutta today. So let's talk about that, and you will clearly see the value of letting go in this very life.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, are you ready?
Okay. I'm ready. Other people may have questions, but I'm ready.
Yeah. Okay, so I selected few short suttas today, and one of those suttas is perfectly matches your question, and yeah, Buddha is talking about the benefit and the value of letting go. Okay. This is the sutta. So let's go through the sutta, and we can discuss more while we are going along. So I like to give you the opportunity to read the sutta, the words of the Buddha, and also you make good karma when you read and share the words of the Blessed One with others. So who's going to read first? This is from the Samyutta Nikaya, the Connected Discourses of the Buddha.
I can start, Bhante.
Okay.
With Bhadraka. At one time, the Buddha was staying in the land of the Malas near the Malayan town called Uravelakapa. Then Bhadraka, the village chief, went up to the Buddha, bowed, sat down to one side, and said to him, "Please, sir, teach me the origin and cessation of suffering." Chief, if I were to teach you about the origin and ending of suffering in the past, saying this is how it was in the past, you might have doubts or uncertainties about that. If I were to teach you about the origin and ending of suffering in the future, saying this is how it will be in the future, you might have doubts or uncertainties about that. Rather, Chief, I will teach you about the origin and ending of suffering as I am sitting right here and you are sitting right there. Listen and pay close attention. I will speak.
Very good. So I think everybody understands the question of this chief of the village, Bhadraka. He wanted to know the cause of suffering and the end of suffering. He wanted to know why we suffer and how to stop suffering and how to gain peace, lasting happiness. That was his question. Isn't that our question too?
Yes, Bhante.
Yeah, it's very relevant. So, and then Buddha's answer is very, very, wise and insightful, because Buddha says, okay, I am not going to teach you the cause of suffering in the past and the end of suffering in the past. This is how the suffering ended in the past, and this is how suffering originated in the past. I'm not going to teach you that, because you cannot see the past. You don't know whether it happened like that, even though the Buddha says this. I'm not also going to teach you the cause and end of suffering in the future, and how the suffering would arise in the future, and how the suffering would end in the future, because the future has not yet come, right? We are at present. So I don't want you to have doubts about my answers related to the past or the future. Rather, I'll teach you the cause of suffering and how suffering arises and the end of suffering, so that you will understand sitting right here. That's a beautiful teaching of the Buddha. Beautiful conversation with this person, Bhadraka. And he's ready to listen to that directly from the Buddha. I think this is the same question we all have, because we understand now, we feel suffering, we suffer mentally, we suffer physically, we cry, and we are sometimes disappointed, we are stressed sometimes. We know this about suffering, and we want to know why this suffering arises, and also we want to know how to end suffering and how to live peacefully. So this answer is going to be very helpful for all of us. Who is going to read next?
I can read, Bhante.
Okay, Rob.
Yes, sir, Bhadraka replied. Yes, sir, Bhadraka replied. The Buddha said this. What do you think, Chief? Are there any people here in Uruvelakapa who, if they were executed, imprisoned, fined, or condemned, it would cause you sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress? There are, sir. But are there any people here in Uruvala who, if they were executed, imprisoned, fined, and condemned, it would not cause you sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress? Yes, there are, sir. What's the cause, Chief? What's the reason why, if this was to happen to some people, it would cause you sorrow, while if it happens to others, it does not. The people regarding whom this would give rise to sorrow are those I desire and love. The people regarding whom this would not give rise to sorrow are those I don't desire and love.
Okay, that's a powerful kind of discovery, right? Done by this Bhadraka. And he was a father, and we're going to learn about his family in the next part of the sutta. And he was kind of very smart. He was very smart. The way he converses with the Buddha and find answers by himself for the questions. So very insightful person. So now remember, so he was explaining, the Buddha's question was, are there any people here in this village, in your village? Urvela Kappa means his village where Bhadraka lives. Are there any people in this village or in this city? If something bad happened to those people, you will cry, you will be sad. And now you think about your own situation. Do we have some people that if something bad happened to them, we feel sad and we start crying, right? What are those people? Our parents, our relatives, our friends, right? If something bad happens to them, we feel it, right? We start crying, we get upset. That's the question. And then when Buddha asked Bhadraka about that, and he agreed, there are those kind of people, Bhante, and if something bad happens to them, I'll be very sad. I'll start crying. I cannot, bear that pain. Is that the only group of people? In the world? No. Buddha asks about another group. Are there any people in this same village, if something bad happened to them, you don't feel like that like in the first case? You don't feel that much of pain and you don't cry? Doesn't that happen all the time in our life? We hear about people dying, get killed, get shot, and meet with some disasters, accidents. We watch on the news, right? We hear about them, we read about them. In most of the cases, we don't cry. Why? Because they are not our parents. They're not our relatives. They're not our family members. We don't feel that. The same way that we feel if something bad happens to our parents, our relatives, our friends. And he agreed. When Buddha asked about that, he agreed. Bhadraka agreed. Well, there are those kind of people, Bhante, in the same village. If something bad happened to them, if they get sick, if they die, I don't cry. There is a difference between this, how I react to the situation of these two different groups of people. Do we have those two different groups of people in our life? Definitely. Everybody has those two groups. Okay, now Buddha is going to open up a conversation about a very deep Dhamma, and Bhadraka was the suitable person for that. And Buddha asks the answer, the reason. What is the cause? What is the reason? why, if this was to happen to some people, it could cause you sadness, sorrow, while if it happens to others, it does not cause you sadness and sorrow. And he himself found the answer. The people regarding whom this would give rise to sorrow are those I desire and love. They are my loved ones, my parents, my relatives. The people regarding whom this would not give rise to sorrow are those I don't desire and love. The other group of people, I don't know them. They are not my relatives. They are not my friends. That means I don't regard them as mine. Can you see now how this desire is connected with this notion of I am, mine, myself?
Yes, Bhante.
And also the detachment, this is a very kind of ordinary, like, it's not very deep Dhamma, but it's something we experience in our day-to-day life. The detachment is right there when we don't have that notion, or when we don't associate with people or things with the notion of me, I am, mine, belonging to myself. And we see the reason for our sadness right there. And also we see the peace, the value of detachment right there. The results of detachment.
Wonderful.
So when that person, Bhadraka, gave that answer, which occurred to him, and Buddha got the opportunity to discuss very deep Dhamma with him. Who is going to read next?
Well, I'll read.
Yeah.
Oops. With this present phenomena that is seen, known, immediate, attained, and fathomed, you may infer into the past and future. All the suffering that arose in the past was rooted and sourced in desire, for desire is the root of suffering. All the suffering that will arise in the future will be rooted in and sourced in desire, for desire is the root of suffering. It's incredible, sir. It's amazing. How well said this was by the Buddha. All the suffering that arises is rooted and sourced in desire, for desire is the root of suffering.
Good. Very good.
I-
So that is the deep Dhamma explained by the Buddha to that fortunate person, Bhadraka. Now he already saw the cause of present suffering and the end of suffering at present. He was not talking about past, not talking about future, right? Buddha helped him to understand the cause of suffering at present and also the end of suffering at present. Because he was already experiencing that. It was not about his past lives or future lives. As soon as he found the answer for the origin of suffering at present and the end of suffering at present, Buddha got the opportunity to teach him about the cause of suffering in the past, end of suffering in the past, and cause of suffering in the future, and end of suffering in the future. Because now he can apply his own answer, his own discovery to the past and the future. That's why Buddha asked him to See here, with this present phenomenon that is seen, known, immediate, attained, and fathomed. What is the phenomenon? The suffering arises with people and with things that I desire and love. And also suffering does not arise with detachment. That is the phenomenon that is seen by Bhadraka. And Buddha asks him to infer that phenomenon to the past and future. So then you get the answer about the cause and end of suffering with related to the past and future. So how to infer that? All the suffering that arose in the past was rooted and sourced in desire, attachment, clinging, craving. That means how many times we cried in the past? Not only in past lives, not only in the previous lives, in the first part of our life, how many times we cried? And also if you think about previous lives, how many times we cried? We have shed a stream of tears in this long journey of samsara, journeying through this cycle of birth and death from life to life. How many times we cried? How many times we were very sad, you know, upset, stressed, depressed. The reason is, now we understand the reason is that suffering is rooted and sourced in desire. It's because of attachment. If we cried in the past, it's because of attachment, because of desires, because of craving. Or desire is the root of suffering. How about the future? All the suffering that will arise in future. That means if we are going to cry in the future, tomorrow, next month, next year, anytime in the future, in this life or in future lives, if we are going to cry, if you are going to be sad, if you are going to be stressed, that suffering will be rooted and sourced in desire. And the reason for that is craving, attachment, and desire. And as soon as he heard this deep Dhamma from the Buddha, he was so happy. That's why he's in. It is incredible, Bhante. It is amazing how well said this was by the Buddha. And he didn't go to argue with the Buddha. No, it's not desire. Desire is a good thing. You know, desire, the craving is a good thing. No, I don't believe so. The suffering is not rooted in desire. He didn't go to argue because he had wisdom. Why didn't he argue? Because he had wisdom and he had his own experience about his suffering. That's why he didn't argue. Here is the evidence. This is how he understood about the cause of suffering and the end of suffering, exactly as explained by the Buddha through his own experience. Now he's going to explain about it. Matthew, you have a question?
Yes, Bhante. I understand it says desire as the root of suffering, but my understanding is it's clinging is more so the root of suffering, and then there's healthy desire, like the desire for enlightenment, the desire for doing wholesome action, the desire for sila, you know, and practicing the Eightfold Path.
Here desire is related to the kind of negative aspect of desire. Definitely, it's talking about attachment and clinging.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's true that we have learned it before as well. Like there are good desires, right? Wholesome desires, desire to attain nibbana, desire to meditate. That's nothing to do with clinging or craving. Okay.
But like a desire, like a desire, a thought of desire could come up, and I could choose to cling, like to attach to it or not, right? And I guess the word desire sometimes, I guess maybe it's just semantics. I guess I prefer the word clinging better because it's like desire
Right. It gives
arises in my mind.
when you use the word clinging, it gives you that it's always clinging is the negative side, so it makes things easy for you to understand.
No, it's just like I don't have control sometimes over the desire that arises, but I have control over the ability to cling to it. At times I could be mindful of it, but the desire will rise in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of space in it when it arises. I guess it's just no, but I guess I refer to like the desire of because I do
Yeah,
desire.
but yeah, I understand. But in the context, like when you read the story, when you read the sutta, if you understand here, even though the translation is desire, and from the context you understand, okay, this is about clinging, you can continue with that.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
here in this case, it's definitely it's about clinging, about craving. Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante.
Good. So now Bhadraka, this father, is going to explain his own experience about how he realizes now the cause of suffering is attachment. Here in this case, desire means definitely attachment. You're going to see that with his answer. Who is going to read?
Okay, may I?
Mhm.
Okay, I have a boy called Shiravasi who resides in a house away from here. I rise early and send someone saying, "Go, my man," and check on my boy Shiravasi. Until they get back, I worry. I hope nothing's wrong with Shiravasi. What do you think, Chief? If Shiravasi was executed, imprisoned, fined, or condemned, would it cause you sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress? How could it not, sir? This too is a way to understand. All the suffering that arises is rooted and sourced in desire, for desire is the root of suffering. What do you think, Chief? Before you'd seen or heard of Chiravasi's mother, did you have any desire or love or fondness for her? No,
So that
sir.
is Chiravasi's mother means his wife, right?
Okay.
Now Buddha is asking about his wife. Like before you had seen or heard about your wife, did you have any desire or love towards her? That's the question. And the answer?
No, sir.
Mhm.
Then, was it because you saw or heard of her that you had desire or love or fondness for her? Yes, sir. What do you think, Chief? If Chiravati's mother was executed, imprisoned, fined, or condemned, would it cause you sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress? How could it not, sir? This too is a way to understand. All the suffering that arises is rooted and sourced in desire, for desire is the root of suffering.
See? Buddha asked, actually, before Buddha asked him, he was explaining about his own life, right? His family, about his son. And he realized how he suffers when the news about his son is coming to him, and he is waiting and waiting to see if my son is doing okay. Nothing bad has happened to him, right?
Mhm.
So Buddha asks him, okay, Bhadraka, what happens if something bad happens to your son? What happens if he dies? You know, you'd be very sad. And I couldn't bear that pain. And that was the answer of Bhadraka. And Buddha explained, okay, now you can easily understand. This is the suffering, and it is rooted in attachment, clinging, craving. And what happens if that attachment, that craving was not found? What would be the result? No suffering. And that is why people should strive to attain stages of enlightenment. Because the stages of enlightenment are there to understand the nature of craving and clinging, and to abandon them stage by stage, gradually, until the wise person attains zero craving, zero clinging for all the conditioned things. And you can understand that is the ultimate goal of the spiritual path. That is the freedom. That is the true peace. And that is called Nibbana. Very clearly, Buddha explains about the Nibbana. Tanha Khayo Nibbana. End of craving of the mind is Nibbana. If the mind has attained end of craving, end of clinging, that mind has attained Nibbana. So Nibbana is not a place to go. Nibbana is not a place to go and live permanently. Like some people explain, like, you know, what are those words with names of paradise, or I forgot those names. Like even in some forms of Buddhism,
You meant sao lắm,
Pure-
you meant Pure Land?
Pure Land or whatever,
Right. Pure Land.
right?
Paradise land, bliss.
Yeah, it's not a place. It's not a place that all the people who attain Nibbana go and live forever. Nibbana is a name for that mind set which has attained Tanha Khayo, end of craving, destruction of craving, zero craving. That is why practitioners of the Buddha's path can attain that true peace in this very life. You don't want to wait until you die, because if you were taught that the paradise, the eternal peace, always is to be experienced after death, you just have to believe that. That is called blind faith. The only way is that you go after that with that faith. But Nibbana is not such a place. If you can attain the Tanha Khayo in this very life, you attain Nibbana in this very life. And if you attain some reduction of craving in this life, when you attain certain stages of enlightenment, you can experience the value of detachment in this very life. And that becomes a personal experience. I think that gives the answer for Ian's question.
Mhm.
And then you clearly understand the value of detachment, value of reduction of craving, value of abandoning clinging, because you experience the peace in this very life. Until we experience that peace, which comes as a result of attaining different stages of enlightenment, we have to have confidence. We have to place confidence in the path. We have to place confidence in the teachings of the enlightenment of the Buddha. That's called Shraddha. If you don't have faith about the results of the path, then there is nothing to guide you. Even in the ordinary life, before you do something, before you apply for a course or a job or whatever, you thoroughly, you reflect on the results and the benefits coming from that to you.
Mm. Mhm.
That is the same thing here in the spiritual path. If you investigate thoroughly about the benefits, about the value, about the results of your practice, and you have full confidence about that path and the results, that becomes the key to arouse energy. Think about that. It's like our ordinary goals in our life. If we are not certain about the results, about the benefits, we are not going to invest that much of energy and time on that. Same situation, same lesson with the spiritual path. Yes, it is to be experienced in this life and it becomes a personal experience, but until that personal experience comes, we need to be based on the teachings of the enlightened one. That is why we say Buddhang Saranang Gacchami. My guidance, my refuge is the Buddha. And as soon as we go beyond, the practitioner goes beyond faith, it's called asaddha. Asaddha means not faithless. Asaddha means the one who has gone beyond faith. That means he has achieved it personally. Now it is a personal experience. It's not faithless. Asaddho means the one who has gone beyond faith. He started with the faith, and that faith gave him big power. It gives so much energy to continue his path, and now he has achieved it personally. So he has gone beyond faith. He doesn't need to believe in the results based on faith, because he has seen it and he has experienced it. It is called
If I open my
asaddho.
hand and show you that I have a jewel in the palm of my hand, you don't need to have faith. As if when I have my hand closed and you can't see the jewel, I say, I have a jewel in the palm of my hand. Then you have to have faith. You have to believe what I say. But if I open my hand and there's a jewel there, you've gone beyond faith. It's not a question of faith anymore. It's just a question of, oh, I see it is true. It's a question of knowing. You go from faith to knowledge, to experience.
Yeah, it's very clear. It's very clear.
Wonderful.
For the
Thank you.
arahants,
I just said thank you. That is a fantastic answer to my question. The sutta we just read.
Yeah.
Perfect.
If you read suttas like that, you'll find answers to all the questions. All the answers are there. That's the best place to find answers, right? Think about that conversation took place 2,500 years ago when the Buddha was alive.
Yep.
And that is the same story we want to talk today.
We can all relate to it.
That's powerful. That's the akalic nature of the Dhamma. Timeless. Dhamma is timeless. Okay, so this is the last part of the, I think we already discussed the entire sutta. So what happens, Buddha, and then Buddha asks about, okay, so you explained about your son, and you are worried about your son until your son get back, and Chiravasi, if something bad happens to him, you are very sad, and you understand that it's because of the suffering you are sad, because of the attachment you suffer. And what do you think about your wife? Before you saw her, before you heard about her, did you know that such a person existed? No. And what happens if she died somewhere? You don't know. So you don't cry. But now an unknown person has become your wife. Now you have a new attachment. Right? That's exactly what is happening around our life. You know, when the computers are in the shop, if the computer falls on the ground and breaks it, like, we don't know, we don't cry. After we purchased it, the same computer, and it falls, it breaks, now we cry. We are sad, right?
Right.
What is this? How did we build this attachment towards an unknown object? Now we regard it as mine. Buddha teaches the entire life is like this. Like, and there is water in the well or in the river, in the stream. As long as it is in the river, we don't call it my water. And we take a glass of water from the same river, and it is in front of a table, right? We are about to drink it, and somebody is going to drink that. Somebody is going to take that, and we say, no, don't touch it. It is my water. Right? And it goes into the body. It becomes an internal water element from that moment onward. And somebody is going to kill us, injure us. And we are ready to get angry at that person. But how this body is made up of? With the water went from a river. All the parts of this body came from the earth, from the water, from the temperature out there, and from the wind blowing out there. Didn't Buddha teach like that? This body is made up of 4 great elements: Patavi, Apo, Tejo, Vayu. Earth element, water element, heat element, and air element. That's why Buddha teaches, when somebody is insulting you, when somebody is trying to kill you, trying to destroy you, contemplate the truth. Don't get angry at that person. Because this body is not yours. That's the vipassana. And think about that. Buddha asks us to do. This body is not mine. This is not I am. This is not myself. Now you understand why Buddha asks us to contemplate like that. That is the only way not to get angry at that person. That is the only way to keep our mind peaceful and equanimous. Otherwise, we will die with a mind full of hatred because somebody killed us. And only Buddha saw what happens if we die with a mind full of hatred. Our rebirth is going to be very sad and the painful, extremely painful destination is to be expected for those who die with a mind full of negative qualities. That is very dangerous. And Buddha had limitless compassion. Even in such a challenging situation, dangerous situation, you should still maintain peace of your mind. Not only in that kind of critical situation, throughout the entire life, Buddha wanted us to maintain peace, inner peace. Because that is the only path to see the reality of life. And that is this entire Noble Eightfold Path is about that. About calming down, about living with right understanding, using speech beneficial to ourselves and others, doing actions beneficial to ourselves and others, practicing practicing right mindfulness, practicing concentration, developing jhanas, and understanding the cause of suffering, end of suffering, suffering, and the path leading to the end of suffering. Understanding the Four Noble Truths. Isn't that a beautiful teaching? Very insightful teaching. Yeah, so finally Buddha asked, now you call that unknown person before you call her your wife. Now what happens if she dies? If she gets sick? If something bad happens to her? Oh, you can't bear that. You cry a lot, right? And then Buddha taught him this too is a way to understand all suffering that arises is rooted and sourced in desire, or desire is the root of suffering. And what if you didn't have that desire, that clinging, that attachment, and the result, no suffering? That is the answer. And what is the path? What is the path to attain that no suffering state? It is the Noble Eightfold Path. Always get the right answer. Don't say that the path is the Vipassana, path is the Samatha, path is that, path is that. This, don't say like that. Don't say incomplete answers. The complete answer is, what is the path to abandon craving, to abandon clinging, and to attain end of suffering? The path is the Noble Eightfold Path. Dukkha Nirodha Gamini Patipada. Dukkha Nirodha Gamini Patipada means the path to end suffering is the Noble Eightfold Path. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So what is the name of that sutta we studied today? Bhadrakasutta. Bhadraka is the name of the father of the boy, Chiravasi, and it is from the Samyutta Nikaya Connected Discourses of the Buddha. And
I have already printed it out.
Already. Yeah.
Yes.
Please read again and again. More wisdom will come.